How Gary Vee crushes it on LinkedIn. Hi, my name is Chris Cozzolino, and I am the co founder and head of services at Uptown Creation, a B2B business development and LinkedIn lead generation company. So, I wanted to do a review of a LinkedIn profile. And this is the start of a series that I plan on doing more and more of. And I figure what better way to start off than going with somebody who preaches a lot about using LinkedIn, and that is none other than Gary Vaynerchuk. So what I'm going to be doing is going through and doing a profile analysis of his account. So everything from, his account profile optimization to his content schedule, and then we'll look a little bit under the hood as well and give some tips on what he could do better and hypothesize some of the ways that he could be using LinkedIn for some direct outreach tactics. So let's jump right into it. So, first and foremost, what stands out to me is his banner and headline banner is really, really good. So you can see VaynerX and then really clearly all the other companies that he does. Usually these don't even stand out to me, and I don't even pay attention to them and tell people that they can, for the most part, ignore them. But this is something that really stood out to me in the first place. So kudos to him for that. You can also see this blue LinkedIn IN badge. That means he's verified. Unlike other platforms, LinkedIn is really hard to get verified on, and they don't do it a ton. So that's just a cool little aside for you all. So when I talk to people about profile optimization on LinkedIn, I talk about three things that are at the top of your profile. So your profile picture, your name, which can't really change, and then your headline. So the two things that you can have an effect on are your profile picture and your headline. So one thing that I think he could do better is make a profile picture that is a little bit more of a headshot. When you're looking at LinkedIn, a lot of times you're not even on somebody's profile. You're seeing a really, really small image of the person's face. So any way that you can make it more of a headshot rather than an upper body shot might make it so you'll have more engagement and more people choose to click into your profile because they can actually see who you are. So that's getting a little bit nitpicky. It's a decent profile picture, but I would like more of a headshot and would recommend to you to use more of a headshot. Now, my favorite part, the headline. So he starts off chairman of VaynerX, CEO of VaynerMedia. I think that's great. I always tell people to start with their title and don't try to get fancy with it. That's going to be the thing that's most organic on LinkedIn, and make it so you're not setting yourself up for failure by saying something like, I help media companies and brands build their social media strategy. If Gary Vaynerchuk had that, it would look a lot more spammy and salesy than it does right here. Then he goes into 5-time NYT bestselling author. I like that because it's a little bit of a credibility and authority statement, but also gives you a little bit of more personality into him. And then it lands his phone number. So it works for him just because of the status that he's at. Something that I would like to see before the text me would be even something more personal. Like for him, maybe I would say Jets fanatic or sports fanatic or something that, makes it a little bit more human. That's something that LinkedIn's really been trying to push more of. Less of a resume site like it used to be considered, and more of a professional doing business site, but being able to, add some personality to your account to make it a little bit more fun and let people get to know you a little bit more while we're spending more time doing business online than ever before. So moving away from the profile picture, name, and headline, just to reiterate, that is the core of profile optimization. That's going to be what affects your connection acceptance rate. That's going to affect your engagement to a good extent because that shows up on every post that you make. And then when you're messaging people on LinkedIn, it's going to affect whether they respond to you or not. So keep that in mind. So going down, you can see in the highlights, it shows an event that he was going to be at. That's a really nice thing to have there because not everybody's doing events. So being able to have that advertisement, so to speak, front and center, I think is awesome. Moving along to the featured section. This is the next most important outside of the top three that I talked about. The featured section is what allows you to do just that. Feature content that you want people to associate you with. So this could be a website link, a call link, a post that did really well on LinkedIn. So I would give him a 3 out of 5 in this section. A 1 out of 5 would be nothing being there. a 5 out of 5 would be having 3 things here and also trying to highlight a post from LinkedIn. So what I would recommend, so something that I do like is he has it really easy to subscribe to his newsletter here. That's a great call to action that's built in. What I would like to see it next to it in the middle here would be a post that performed really well. And that could be more of a rotating post that gets changed, monthly or bi-monthly, to be able to highlight a piece of content that really did well. And then lastly, and probably the worst part, is that the website isn't optimized to show a thumbnail in this post. So this is something that you'll have to go into the website to actually change, but making it so there would be an image here rather than a blank image would definitely make it easier to approach and they'd get more engagement on this in general. So I would give it a 3 out of 5, and that is how I would make it be a 5 out of 5. Moving on to the activity section. So this is really going to be the bread and butter of LinkedIn, the content that's being posted and how people are even finding you in the first place. LinkedIn's at a really unique spot where organic engagement is higher than ever. That happens on social media platforms when there's more consumers of content than there are creators of content. And LinkedIn as well as TikTok are at great spots for that right now, where you can get organic engagement and grow organically. This is different from how Instagram and Facebook are currently. Instagram and Facebook were like this back in 2012, but now they're more of a pay to play environment, which creates some difficulties. So going into his content strategy, something that he's doing is he's posting 4 times a day, which is a lot for LinkedIn, in my opinion. It definitely isn't a bad thing as long as you can keep the quality there. But I think that what I would recommend to most people is posting 3 times a week. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, trying to get those posts out before noon so people can see them over lunch and they have kind of the whole day to build up engagement. LinkedIn posts have a longer life than other platforms. You can have a post that continues to get engagements for 2 to 3 weeks, whereas you're not going to see that on Twitter or TikTok and even Instagram necessarily, although Instagram posts can go viral, so to speak, for longer than Twitter and TikTok. But LinkedIn is going to be longer than most of those. So you can see that he did a video post with a caption. Then he did an image. This image is really good because it takes up a lot of screen space. All posts with images are going to perform better because of the simple reason that they take up more screen space. If you were to just have put those words, it would take up a lot less space and it's easier to scroll past. So it get less engagement. So if you have a really short post, a way to make sure that you get more engagement with it is to add an image to it. Something really cool that he does is has the like, celebrate, love, insightful, and curious symbols here. So then when you scroll over this to engage and scroll over this like button to engage, they pop up there. So this is in the image itself and a really creative way to encourage people to engage, in my opinion. So that is something that I would recommend if you're able to implement into the images that you post. So another type of post that he's using, which is awesome, is a poll. So polls are some of the most viral posts right now on LinkedIn, and they're really easy to make. It's as simple as just asking a question and then giving a couple options. You can see that the third option here is other, leave a comment. So that's a really creative way to have a call to action to engage by commenting on the post if there's something else. So I think that's a really clever thing that you could add to your polls if you're already utilizing polls. But I think that this is executed really well. He's using a variety of content. So video, we saw a still image, and now we're seeing a poll, and this is all in a single day. So a lot of different types of content that he's posting as well. Let me make sure that I'm on posts and not all activity. So moving on, here is another video. Video content is always going to perform really well on LinkedIn. And it's again going to come down to supply and demand. So there's a lack of content being put out compared to consumers on LinkedIn, as I mentioned before. there's even more so a lack of video content being put out as compared to the other types of content being put out. So if you're somebody that's comfortable getting behind the camera, making video content and posting that on LinkedIn is going to be one of the easiest ways to break through the algorithm and get a lot of engagement on the posts that you're making. Moving on. So here's one of those text posts that I was talking about that you could add an image to potentially get more engagement. This isn't something that needs to be done, but as I mentioned, it isn't bad to add images to text posts to increase the screen space and ultimately increase the engagement rate. So I think going to Gary Vaynerchuk's page is a really good way to look at a good content strategy. Something that I'll mention that might lead to a lower engagement post, and you can see this only got 170 likes compared to the other posts getting thousands and thousands. He links to a YouTube video. So anytime that you link off of LinkedIn, your engagement's automatically going to drop. And the reason being is LinkedIn is selfish, just like any other platform, and they want you to stay on LinkedIn. So whenever you're trying to take somebody off of LinkedIn, that post is just going to get less engagement. So a creative way that you could implement this would be to have a call to action in the post to check out the video in your comments, and then go ahead and add a comment with that video itself. And that is a creative way around it. Similar to sharing links on LinkedIn, sharing other people's posts is also going to be a really low engagement way of posting. Instead of sharing somebody's post, I would prefer somebody quote them and then tag them in that post to give them credit. And that's going to be a much better way to make a post if you want to share something rather than just using the share feature. So let's go back to his profile. Overall, Gary Vaynerchuk is an expert at social media. He's an expert at LinkedIn. Much of what he does on LinkedIn and his strategy is cutting edge and very creative. So it's hard to go wrong by modeling your strategy off of something like this. We talked about the nitpicky ways that it could be even better. And that doesn't even go into a direct outreach strategy. So if you're interested in learning more about how you can use LinkedIn to get new leads, fill your sales pipeline, and create a sales pipeline using direct outreach, I'd recommend checking out some other videos that will pop up here that will show you exactly how to use LinkedIn to generate leads rather than do organic posting. A profile like Gary Vaynerchuk's, where it's already posting, getting a ton of engagement, is an ideal account to try to use for direct outreach. So anybody who's doing direct outreach already should implement a content strategy, and anybody implementing a content strategy already should implement a direct outreach strategy. They go hand in hand. And there's ways to do direct outreach without feeling like you're spamming people. Hopefully this was entertaining and a fun video to watch and you learned a thing or two. If you did, please consider subscribing and giving this video a like. That is a free way that really helps us out. And if you're interested in learning more about LinkedIn, check out my other videos and check out uptowncreation.com if you're interested in chatting with myself or the team about a LinkedIn strategy for you. Have a good one.